Hello and welcome to all our viewers to the third episode in our series of weekly reflections. This week we go into the first week of Ordinary Time, and in the first reading we'll be following the story of Samuel, which starts in the first chapter. Now perhaps many of you are familiar with this story, but let's just recap for those who aren't. So the story starts with Elkanah, who has two wives, the first of whom is named Hannah, and the second of whom is named Peninnah. Now, the problem was with Hannah is that she was barren, she had no children. And this was a cause of great embarrassment and pain for her in the Judaic community. Not only was this a source of embarrassment for her, but it was made worse by the fact that Peninnah, the second wife of Elkanah, would endlessly taunt her. And so Hannah lived a very kind of tortured life. So much so that one day she decided to go up to the temple and to just lay this all before Yahweh and implore him to give her a child. She was so distraught that the priest there, Eli, thought that she was drunk and castigated her. But then Hannah told her her situation, and Eli promised to pray also for her that she would be given a child. And so, in the fullness of time, Hannah conceived a child who she named Samuel. Now, the story of Hannah is very interesting, and she can teach us a lot, because we might expect Hannah to go now to Peninnah and boast to her and say, look, all this time you were taunting me, now God has given me a gift. God has given me a child. So there. Hannah doesn't do this. We might also expect Hannah to kind of attach herself to Samuel, this gift that she so longed for, and really kind of be an overbearing mother and never let him go, never let him out of her sight, because this was the gift of God that took away her shame before people. Hannah doesn't do this. Hannah does something really astonishing. Hannah takes this child, and when he is only 3 or 4 years old, when he's been weaned, returns this gift to the Lord, takes him to the temple and gives him to Eli and dedicates him to the Lord for the rest of his life. Hannah lets go of this gift. What she does with the gift given to her by God is she returns it straight back to God. This teaches us two very important lessons. The first lesson is that we are not the owners of our gifts. God entrusts these gifts to us, especially if they are children, for a short time, so that we might do His will with them. And the second is that the reason that God gives us these gifts is much deeper and greater than the reason that we ask them for. Hannah asked for this gift of a child from God so that her shame might be removed, that she might take her rightful place as the first wife in the family. But she realized that God had a much greater purpose than just removing her shame or settling a domestic squabble. Because Samuel was to go on and become one of the greatest judges of the people of Israel and choose their first king, who was Saul. Had Hannah decided to cling to this gift, she would have frustrated this great gift of this great plan of God. But she realized that God's plans were much greater. And she didn't get obsessed with the gift, but looked to the giver. And this kind of was rewarded, this action of hers was rewarded by God, because God further blessed her with 5 other children. When I was the chaplain in one of the major hospitals here in Harare, I used to go and visit a small boy who had lived in this hospital for now 2 years because he had been abandoned there by his parents because he was hypercephalic. His brain was filled with water and made him a bit odd looking. And so I would often, just to kind of cheer him up, because he lived in the hospital basically, that was his home, I would take him sweets. And so whenever he would see me, his face would light up. And before he would even greet me, he would say, "Mandivigire." And so I would hand over the sweets. And instantly, instead of wanting to talk to me and be interested in his friend, he would start examining the lollipops that I had bought him and whether I had remembered to buy him his favorite flavor and so on. And whenever I happened on the odd occasion to forget to bring him the sweets, he would be very sad and wouldn't really be interested in talking. He had fixated on the gift instead of on the giver. But as we all know, gifts are there to establish relationship, to make the relationship grow deeper. And it's the same with us and God. So often we want to ask Him for gifts And once we've got the gift becomes far more important to us than the giver. Often in our lives, the last gift that we have received from God becomes the biggest obstacle to us receiving His next gift, to the relationship going on further, because we fixate and get obsessed with the gift. God wants us to realize the giver in all of these gifts. When He gives us gifts, He's trying to create relationship with us. He's trying to draw us closer to Him. And so each one of us might ask himself or herself in our own lives, what gift are we asking to God? And what do we want to do with it? And once we've received it, do we let that gift become an obstacle in our relationship with Him? Or do we let that gift lead us to the giver and deepen our love for Him and deepen our relationship with Him?